In this video I'm going to review this new Sony. It's a model XAV-63. It should also cover the XAV-64BT, which is a Bluetooth version of the same exact receiver, just with the enhanced feature of adding Bluetooth. So if you're looking for either one, the 63 or 64BT, this here review would be very relevant to either one. So while this unit is in display, I'm just going to give you the overall outside interpretation of what it is, while it's also going through its little demo mode. I'll zoom in while I'm chatting in the background. Now this one here is a middle of the road, so if I get a little finicky about some of its features or its laggy features, there's a reason why. Now Sony, like any other car audio and video manufacturer, has their entry level, their middle of the road, and their flagship top of the line. I just did another review on the one with the mirror link, which was a very impressive unit. I like that thing a lot. This one here is a step down. This thing only sells for in the low to mid 300s. So again, for the price point, comparatively, Sony is really looking good. And I'll tell you why it's looking good in a second, and a couple of reasons why it's not so good. Now, first interpretation, they do not give you, I want to show you this, they do not give you the mounting sleeve, the cage, and the aesthetic trim rings and plastic, fascia pieces that you might like to see in the box. So that's a detracting feature. Another feature with this, which could be a plus or a minus depending on who you ask, the iPod plug is located right here in the front with this little cover that snaps it closed. Button layout, very minimalistic. Sony, like most of Sony products, very touch intuitive. They really want to utilize and make it feel more adaptive, kind of like a computer would be to your fingers when you're using a tablet. And that's cool. I can respect it as long as it works and flows good. I'm okay with that. So up on the top, you have your slot load for your CD and DVD. You have a 6.1-inch LCD screen here, eject button, source, rotary knob, which is not a multi-toggle type of deal where you push, contort to left and right and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't do any of that. Your top menu button, you have an auxiliary 3.5mm microphone type of jack for an analog MP3 device. Like I explained here, the USB for your MP3 device. Now on the rear side, which is always where I make most of my focus on any unit, this one being no exception. On the back, you have the standard 16-pin Sony harness that they've used forever. Good news is that even if you needed another plug, all you have to do is get a standard car stereo plug for $6, $7. It would be the same exact plug as this one, with the exception of the green, which is the parking brake lead. So that way you can do video while in motion. Over here, you have their old J-Bus CD changer. Well, who uses a CD changer anymore? A CD changer, iPod, or an expansion type of module. You plug it in here, as well as the bus audio input. That's been like that with Sony forever. Over here you have two sets of preamp outputs, which is, in my opinion, a letdown. But then again, getting back to the price point, you have by default a front and a rear RCA preamp output. So if you want to feed audio into a 4-channel full range amplifier system out of the box, it's a winner. The only way it could possibly be a challenge is if you wanted to utilize a front, rear, and a separate individual subwoofer control. Then you would have a problem because this does not have all three. Over here is just your AV inputs for video in, slave outputs. Over on the bottom here is a small blue plug, which you can use an optional steering wheel interface, so you can control this unit from your factory steering wheel controls effortlessly. Over here is a reverse lead, so if you wanted to utilize a camera, there's a port right there for that. Enough said. That's all there is to see back there. The side, pretty standard ISO mounting configuration. Nothing exciting going on there. Now let's take a look at the good stuff. Okay, so right now this XAV-63 is in its demo mode, so you can kind of check it out, see what it's doing in the background while I'm in the back yakking at you. Now this unit here has a 4-channel 40x4 output, which of course is not RMS real output. The RMS power output on this unit is 17 watts per channel. That's utilizing the internal amplifier supplied with the unit. The peak power output is 52 watts, which would never happen if all the stars aligned. Now you got the power bandwidth, which is the frequencies that this unit will play, which is pretty much like anything else, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Nothing really crazy going on there. Like I touched on when I showed you the rear of the unit, you have a 4-channel preamp outputs. The voltage is only 2 volts. So you're working with 2 volts. If you wanted to use, you know, a super sub or something like that back in this system combined, my personal recommendation would be go get yourself a line driver or a crossover, something to beef up that voltage because it's a little lacking. It is a 6.1 or 6 1/8 size diagonal monitor LCD size. The key button colors on there are white. Over here, let me just back out real quick. As you see on the left side, when I say that I mean these buttons here. I want to make that clear. Now your EQ, which is the 7-band, which is one of the greatest features of this unit, by the way, folks. The wireless remote is not included with this unit. However, you can purchase it separately and it would work just fine. It also has that hardwired steering wheel control interface plug in the back, so you can do that. Now your auxiliary inputs, you have the 3.5mm jack on the front, like I explained. You have the standard USB. It does have you could also use a memory card in this unit. This particular unit, as I mentioned, the 64BT has Bluetooth. The 63 does not. This unit is Sirius satellite radio ready. HD radio is an option, which you can plug into that J-bus plug in the back of the unit. Navigation, not built in, not an option. Tuner, you have the standard deal. You have an AM/FM. The sensitivity is pretty good, 8 decibels. European tuning, it is not capable of doing that. The RDS feature, the radio data system, which means that it would tell you the station, the broadcast, the name of the song, stuff like that. That's built into this unit. It's an inherent feature. It's built in. It's free, and it's included once you turn the unit on. So that's a very good feature as well. Screen is very crisp, very clear. I know you can't see it by looking at this thing on YouTube. However, when you walk anywhere you want, above it, below it, side of it, screen shines very nicely, and this is only by factory default. This is not even tuned. Not bad. So let's cut this unit on real quick. There's some stuff I want to show you. This here is your main FM screen. You have a total of 6 presets. You have 3 bands for FM 1, 2, and 3, so you have a total of 18 FM presets, 6 AM. Best stations memory, very easy to program. Buttons are laid out right here. Controls, very nicely placed. Band, all the contrast is very nice. I really like this. I like this a lot. ATT is for attenuator. That's what Sony's always called it. It's their thing. And you have a button, they call it a top, or a main screen menu button, whatever you want to call it. Sony calls it that, so we'll call it that. So on your main screen, these are your sources. iPod USB, which would be here. I'm going to plug in my iPhone. Be sure to note how long it takes for this unit to read the information. Pretty impressive. So there you have your artist, song, album, songs. Zap is a feature where they can kind of do like intros, and you can customize the playback folders on Sony. I don't want to get too much into that because that could take a while. You have your play pause right here, track location right here. Again, laid out pretty nicely. Your playback menu right here. And you have the passenger app control. Okay, so you have your aux input, which would be fed through the rear of the unit. SensMe basically is an app that you would have to get on your computer. Sony supplies this. You can go on there, download it, put it onto your device, and then what that is once you have it working on this unit, once you get in there, it could tell you, you can customize what you want to hear, like chilling, you know, driving the car, or you can have hard rock, heavy metal when you're working out, or disco when you want to just go loco, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. That feature is a Sony thing. It's strictly Sony technology. No one else has this app. It's totally their thing and no one else's. Sony does have a lot of unique technologies. That's one of the reasons why Sony's worth looking at. The disc we don't have to put in there because, you know, it's a disc, you know. Who really cares? But what I do want to show you is in here. This is what always makes or breaks it for me. Well, not particularly the general tab, but the next one. Standard stuff, language, clock adjust, auto on or off, turn it beep, turn it on, turn it off, because some people don't like that. I personally like the choice. Your dimmer level, touch panel adjustment, which you don't need because this thing works flawlessly as it is. The rotary commander, you can turn it on, reverse it. Camera input, you can turn that input on or off, so that way if you do so, you'll see it on the home screen or not see it, so that way it's not cluttering up the whole screen, putting stuff that you don't use anyway. And you can see over here, it's also telling you screen 4 of 4, 3, 2, and 1 of 4, so that's laid out very nice. Again, attenuator, always a back button, always very easy to navigate Sony. Now the sound. This is good. Especially for something in this price point, this is cool. You got all these preset ones, which I would never use. But again, you see what's going on? It's giving you a graphical interface. It's showing you lines. I'm very visually, you know, that's me. Like, I like to see things. I don't like numbers, bandpass filters, you know, like say 80 hertz, you know, plus this with a bandpass filter cutting off at, you know, 6 dB slope. That stuff is, to me, is irritating. Do I know how to use it? Sure, I can get to it, and I can use it, and I can modify it, make it sound ass-kicking. But why would I want to utilize that if I could have something like this, which in my opinion is much better? Custom, there you go, man. There's your EQ. Turn it up, turn it down, make it the way you want it to be. Make your own settings. Make it your own. You can make different settings for different moods, different uses of the system. So if you want to use user 1, user 2, it's all right there at your fingertips. That's a winner. That's good. And Sony has a good crisp sound to begin with, and plus this thing also has a sub-control. Unfortunately, it doesn't have 3 preamp outputs. But say if you had used this receiver with just 1 amp for your subs, this thing would be a killer. Or if you had this and a 4-channel amp, it still could be a killer. If you want to be creative, you can always just Y-split off the rear channel, put it into a regular knob, potentiometer knob, whatever, connect that to an amplifier, and you're still in business, and you can control the sub separately by saving money utilizing this unit. There's 100 ways you could do it. You know, if you're not looking to go broke, this is a good piece to start with. So you have that great EQ, balance and fader laid out very, very simply. Anybody can understand this. The buttons are not as perfect as I've seen in other ones, but when you're using the iPod controls, it does work slightly different for some reason on this unit. I don't know why that is. There is a little like space between what you're touching and the LCD. You know, I've noticed that on some things don't have it. You know, kind of like how a tablet has nothing, it's just hard glass, and then other things it has that little bit of stickiness to it. This has that little bit of stickiness to it, which I'm not a huge fan of. But still, it is responsive, it does work rather good. Can't really complain a lot about it, but it's worth saying. I'm reviewing it, I might as well tell you everything, right? So again, on this main screen on the sound, we've already done the EQ, we've seen the balance fader, listening position, which you can customize. You can bring, just like in a home theater, the speaker from the front left and the rear right, you know, reorganize these and make them all kind of like timed perfectly so they get to your ears at the right time for whatever it is that you like it to be. You can set the custom screen, get in there and just get crazy with yourself. Just sit here and just go bananas. Screen 2, rear bass enhancer. So basically what's that going to do is, say if you just use this with 4 regular speakers and you had larger speakers like most vehicles typically do, it would emphasize the lower frequencies on the rears and you would have more full range and more brightness. This one feature here is a huge seller. Everybody who sees it, I'm sure, would just go crazy for it. These are all the backsplashes. You can customize and add any one of these factory defaults, or say if you had a disc, threw it in there, there's a little button that'll come up where you can lock it, and you can actually make that your screensaver. That's hot. Who wouldn't like that? Especially, again, for middle of the road unit, pretty damn good. That's actually called the picture EQ. Clock, who cares? And that's really it. Screen 1 of 1 on the screen. Your audio visual, there's no disc in here, but all the stuff is pretty straightforward. Nothing really exciting. You could do a JPEG slideshow if you're into that. Resume monitor type, playlist, subtitles, audios, menu languages. Not a whole lot going on in there. So all in all, I really like this unit. I mean, for a middle of the road, fairly priced unit, this thing offers a lot. It's Sirius ready. I mean, it's got some good preamps. The voltage is a little laggy, but you know what? It's a solid performer. If you want something that's going to sound good, be reliable, and has, you know, doesn't have a ton of apps like Pandora and a whole bunch of other weird stuff, but then again, I don't think that the person that's looking for this wants that stuff. So, in my opinion, middle of the road, Sony's done a really good job. I think it's a heck of a good unit. So, you know, give it a look, you see. I mean, if you could find one to goof around with just like I have here today, I mean, I'd say, why not? I'd go for it. So, the Sony XAV-63, give it a look.